The first position I'm going to be talking about is going to be the center, or the five. The center for me is he's the closest he's the closest player to the rim from a height standpoint and from a position standpoint. Meaning usually he's supposed to be a little taller than the other guys. He's probably like the tallest guys in the team. And he's close to the basket. He's the closest to the basket as possible as far as position is concerned. And because of that, because of that, that makes that position the highest percentage, the highest percentage shots in basketball. Period. I don't really care what's going on, with the guards and with the point guard and different things that they do nowadays, and scoring guards and stuff like that. The center is the highest percentage shot in basketball. Period. Now, if you have a center who has an amazing, and I mean a deadbeat killing hook shot, meaning every time he gets to that spot, whether he has to back down his defender from a post up and get to that spot, whether it's a little far or whatever, and then use whether it's left or right. Let's say you have a post up player who has a let's say Kareem was 90% scorer from the hook shot with the hook shot, meaning out of 10 shots he takes, let's say he'll probably score 9. If he gets to that sweet spot, he'll probably score 9, regardless like the left or the right. If you have a big man who could get 8 out of those 10 shots and score every single time, think about it for a second. Let's talk about it. And I know I'm going to talk about it in later videos, but let's think about it for a second. The hook shot for a big man is supposed to be, not just for big men, especially for big men, yeah. It's supposed to be the hardest shot to stop. The hardest. Because like I talked about in the video, in the previous video, if you post up your defender and then you use the length of your shoulder plus the length of your arm, as you back him down and you get to your spot, you don't have to change. All you got to do is just, put that ball up. Now, if you put that nice curve on it, if you add that curve on it, I don't care if that's DeAndre Jordan, I don't care if it's Tyson Chandler. The only way he could block that shot is when the ball is taken off. But it's kind of hard because, like I said, there's a great distance that you create. So by the time you release it, the only time he could block the shots is when the ball is coming down. And guess what? That's a goaltending. So it's a very, 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 very hard shot to guard. And, I recommend big men and centers to develop that shot like a bread and butter, like it was a layup. If I was a coach, or if I had to advise a coach or trainers and things like that, I would advise them to work with the bigs on, not just work on it, but really understand the psychology of the shot. Really understand the psychology of the position. A lot of big men nowadays, I think a lot of big men fell into that whole guards and want to be look pretty with the jumpers and shoot threes and shoot threes and shoot mid-range jumpers and things like that. And that's great. There's nothing wrong with that. But they forgot about the gift that they receive, which is the heights and the skills. Some of those guys do have the skills. I feel like that position should play 95% back to the basket and 10% outside, meaning on the perimeter and mid-range jumper and threes jumper. Nowadays, everybody can shoot threes, which is good because I want my big man to be able to knock down maybe 1 or 2 in a quarter, or maybe having a 2 attempts each quarters. That'd be great because at a time where he gets the rebound and then the 4-man is gone, so he's the one trailing, and if he trails and then his man is backing down one time, I want him to step in and take that shot because I want him to always create that threat regardless of what it is. So what's his job? What's his job as a player? For me, I feel like the job of a center is to be a basketball player. What I mean by that is he has to be able to shoot, he has to be able to pass, he has to be able to dunk, He has to be able to run the floor. He has to be able to communicate. He has to be able to block shots. He has to be able to do all the things to dribble. He got to be able to do all the things a basketball player could do. Now, they are percentages. They are percentages. Obviously, if he's a big, I want him to live most of the time on the block. And I don't want just him to live in there because either the coach or you said so. I will have a discussion with my bigs and make them understand the psychology of being a big. I will make them understand the psychology of that position. A lot of big men believe that it's just a position of like, oh, it's not as pretty as the guard position, because the guard gets to do a lot of things that people go, oh, and dribble and move the body, and the crowd, and cross over, and the crowd is going crazy. And when you're a big man, there's not that much that that blow the crowds or whatever. Think about it, man. If you're a big man, all you do now, you got skills now. You could like back down. You could do up and under. You got all the different skills. But most of the time, you got a hook shot that no big man can stop. Like, you got a hook shot that's kind of like a layup every time. Why would you want to kill your energy doing all those dribbling? You kind of save your energy. You come down, boom, bucket. You go on defense. You give your 100% on defense. You come back down. If they're setting the ball, bucket. Why would you want to kill your energy doing all those hoo-ha? And then you get tired very quick, and then you get to the bench. That's another thing I'll be asking my bigs, like, yo, yeah, it might look pretty and all this stuff, but eventually you're taller, so the risk of injury is a lot higher because you're tall. So I feel like just a big man has to we got to go back to the basics, and not just tell guys you got to play this position because you're tall. Make them understand the psychological benefit of the gift, which is the height, and maybe they have some skills already. Making them understand that part, then eventually making them understand how precious that part is, that position is. So eventually they want to be a big. They wanted that position. They want to be in that position. Not that they kind of doing it because a coach told them that eventually they have to hide. They have to do it. You want a player to. You want to make a player understand why it's important, but you don't want to force a player to do it. Now in the league it's different. There are a lot of stake. There are a lot of different things. Money and marketing and pressure from everywhere. I mean, there are pressures everywhere. So it might be a little different in the NBA. But I'm talking about like in general in basketball. Especially when you teach young kids, you got to make sure you don't put that pressure on those kids. I feel like the information should be exposed. All the limit information that the coach or the trainer has. Because I say limit information, because he received those information from somebody else. This is how you do it. No, this is how I was taught to do it. But I want you to go and try on your own and see the different things that you could come up with. So eventually I'll show you how I was taught to do. And eventually you could combine them both and see which one works for you. And that's why I feel like in reality in sport, not just in sport, in life in general, you don't teach a kid how to play or how to do something. He teaches himself to do it. So what you do is you expose the information that you know, and then you just let everything else that you don't know. You put everything out. A lot of trainers, a lot of coaches always tell players, let's do this. Let's start making the pass. Let's do the pass. This is how you do a pass. Don't do it that way. It's the wrong way. You start creating those blocks. You don't dribble that way. It's the wrong way. How do you know? Let him dribble. Let him do different things that don't even make sense. And eventually put him in a situation in the game where he does the same thing. Guess what? He's going to learn from that. He's going to see, oh, that shit ain't working. That shit ain't working. Oh, damn. I was doing that on my own and that shit ain't working. And then eventually he's going to fix it. His brain's going to fix it. Now you can add period of practices where you actually let them do the thing for maybe an hour or two, depends on how long is your practice. Then eventually you have days or an hour, maybe you have a time where you actually show them the way you learn, the way it is taught. So now they have the two information and they can combine the two and figure out which one the brain's gonna start figuring out how it works. Now that's gonna be a different topic. We're gonna talk about that later on. But to come back on the big man situation, like I said, physically I don't necessarily, I don't necessarily ask my big to be a certain type of, certain type of player or a certain type of body. You could go and say, oh, I want him to be just like Shaq with the body of Shaq and do this and do that. For me, I just feel like if you got the height, if you're a tall player, maybe like 7 foot or like maybe 6'11", or maybe shorter, but like the higher you are, it helps. 6'11" and things like that. The way the understanding of the position will make you develop the skills that are going to work for you. It's going to just help you create the skills that are going to work for you, because you understand the position. You understand how you're gonna get your bread and butter. How you're gonna beat your defender most of the time. Not just the hook shot. Obviously, there are a lot of other moves. As far as playing back to the basket. But you understand the advantage that you have. And then I want him to play a little. I want him to have within those 90 percentage. I want him to have a back to the basket game and a face up game. But I wanted him to really focus more. I really would hope that he focuses more on the back to the basket game, because, just to understand. Now he can adjust in the game, whatever works for him. Depends on what kind of possession, what kind of stuff we're running. And I will talk about the system, the style of play later on in later videos. But that's kind of how I see the big man. And for me, like I said, I'm not looking for a particular style of body or whatever. But if you could have the hook shot of Kareem, man, we could develop a lot of other stuff. Now, you don't need to have that when you start with the kid, but you got to make sure he understands the position, so his mind is open to be able to reach that level as you guys practice it every time in practice or every day in practice. So eventually, once you get to the game, not even in practice, it becomes like a layup. Like, it's literally unguardable, literally. That's one of the things I would advise coaches, because of that position and the fact that it is the highest percentage shot. I feel like the center should get the first 3 possessions of each quarter. Each first 3 possession of quarters, I feel like should go to the big man. Regardless whether he makes it or not, we got to go from the inside. We have, and I would talk about the style of playing, because it's not about, oh, he scored and then we go back at him. Or he missed, then we do something else, because that's what a lot of coaches do nowadays. And I will talk about the style in the next video. But it's about possession. It's about, we practice possession. It's a different game that we're going to play. That style is going to be totally different than what a lot of coaches coach with the score. They coach with the score. They coach with the moment. They coach with what the score is telling us, and what this player is giving me. Is he doing good tonight, or is he not doing good? A lot of coaches play with that, and some have won championship with that, but believe that that's why it works. It's not just about winning championships. This game is not just about winning championships. We're dealing with human beings, man. We're dealing with human beings who, there are teams that have won championship with players that if you actually put the mic in front of them and actually let them speak their mind truly, some will tell you they're not happy. Regardless of whether they won the championship or not, they're not happy. Because maybe they didn't play. Maybe they didn't feel like they would take out of the game at a very crucial moment when they felt like they could help. And they won, yes, but they still, again, like, I don't want to get into it too much, but I'll talk about it eventually in the later videos. But a lot of things, like I said, a lot of things I'm going to be talking about here, some people is not going to agree with it. A lot of the whole basketball world, a huge percentage in the whole basketball world, a lot of people are not going to agree with it. So, and I'm okay with it. I'm okay with it. I'm speaking my mind. You don't have to agree with me. I'm just speaking my mind, and it is what it is. So I will talk about the style of playing in the next video, and why I believe in that style and stuff like that. But yeah, it's just I would go to my big man. I would go back to the big man and feed the big man and go from inside out, because I want my teammate. I want my team. The rest of my team to feed off the big man, because he's the closest, he's the highest percentage shots, and from him, I want the other guys to get the game going from that big man.